What's something that some people have that they don't realize is a huge flex? Before we start with the first story, please hit subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay updated with us. Story 1. Good parents. Seriously, I would also add parents who grow with their children and accept who they are. I am so thankful my parents did this with my siblings and I. Growing up, we went to conservative fundamentalist churches. Eventually, we all started having a feeling that those beliefs were not really godly. And we grew out of those beliefs together. They also never had a fantasy about who their children were as people. They accepted us as we were, and went from there. It is ridiculous how much healthier human beings grow up when they have not even great, but simply good enough parents. So many traumas, depression, and anxiety are a result of bad parenting. Once I turned 30, I realized that one of the first questions I should ask my Tinder dates was, how are your parents? Are they still together? Did you have a good childhood? And if not, you can be 99% sure there will be things that I will have to deal with, which are a clear result of childhood neglect, abuse. Story 2. Extremely supportive parents that are also financially able to help me out from time to time. This one kinda hits. I grew up with, and still have, parents who are very successful and supportive, and while I avoid doing so like the plague for pride reasons, I know well I can ask for anything at all that I need, and they'll come through with it. It's strange seeing the other side of that coin because my wife doesn't know her father, left her mother before she was born, and her mother is pretty much bankrupt religious type who obsessively gives everything she gets, owns to church and the needy. So she's always baffled that on the occasional chance we have a financial issue or need something, I can send a single text and we'd have it. Makes me incredibly thankful for my parents, but also a little bit sad that so many people don't have that kind of support system. Story 3. Patience, impulse control. Most people are a lot more reactive than they realize. You know, I think this needs to be much higher. Despite all our modern inventions, we're remarkably uncivilized without even realizing it. Anger is one of the most animalistic feelings we can inhabit. And yet so much of society wants to believe that anger is the highest form of humanity. False. Self-control is the highest form of humanity. A gentle touch and soft voice when you're upset are so much more powerful than screaming and punching walls. The problem is that if you have it, most of the people doesn't even notice it or realize how much effort you are putting into it. So many times you start asking yourself why you are so patient, since it's a thing you do for others, but it's not recognized, and it would be so much easier for you to just bust into rage. Story 4. The ability to fall asleep quickly anywhere. I had insomnia for years as a child. I grew up in a house full of turmoil, so I frequently went without sleep. A few months after I turned 18, my mother kicked me out of the house. My friend came and picked me up. Luckily, her roommate was out of town, so I had a bed to sleep in. For the first time I could remember in my entire life, I fell asleep as soon as my head hit the pillow, and except for the past few years, I've been able to do so for 4 decades since. Story 5. No allergies. I went to an allergist and he did the test, then exclaimed, "How are you reacting to water?" I had a big skin reaction to the control poke. I have constant allergies and have to take a prescription antihistamine daily, or else I'd be covered in hives 24/7. I'm allergic to grasses, weeds, trees, smoke, cats. Still have cats though, because my allergy can be controlled enough to bear it, thank God. Latex, wood, dust, most adhesives, most soaps. I also can't wear contact lenses because my eyes react to them as if I'm allergic. Which is immensely unfair because I have so many cute sunglasses I can't wear. Story 6. People skills and being able to read a room instantly. My husband has consistently downplayed his success in life because he thinks he's not that smart, and basically he thinks he's been a combination of lucky and very hardworking. Both of the latter are true, though not the first. He's very smart. But the real thing that sets him apart is how amazing he is with people. People love him. His employees talk about how he's the best boss they've ever worked for. The agencies his company contracts with try to convince him to quit and come work for them. Some refuse to work with anyone else. He's just that good. As the world's most socially awkward and anxious little autistic person, I don't know how he does it, but I'm in awe. Story 7. Good vision eyes. I've worn glasses since before I started school. I'm horribly nearsighted. Sometimes it's kind of fun basically having a built-in macro setting, but I just want to go swimming and see where I am. or read in bed without holding the book, my phone at nose length from my face. I got laser correction a few years ago. I have forgotten that previous life. So many little inconveniences and a few big ones. I highly recommend it. It's not cheap, but the quality of life upgrade is worth the price of a vacation for sure. Story 8. Lack of constant anxiety. I swear me sitting normally feels like someone being hunted for sport. Got together with some old friends a while back for a bonfire. People got chatting. At one point, some folks were talking about anxiety and intrusive thoughts, and another friend just said, "Oh no, I don't get that. Never had an intrusive thought, mind blown." Kind of vindicating, like it's not just that I'm bad at life, I'm legitimately struggling uphill. My mom is one of those rare unicorn people with zero anxiety, and yet she's still super responsible and organized. She's not like, whatever goes, goes. But she doesn't stay up at night worrying about things that could happen. I grew up taking it for granted, just believing adults were like that. Imagine my surprise when I grew up and got dealt the passive anxiety levels of someone being hunted for sport. Story 9. Savings each month, instead of digging deeper into a debt hole. When you're in debt, you're constantly paying for things that you already bought. It's a terrible situation. You should be doing everything in your power to spend less and earn more, even if it makes your life suck more in the short term. I had this problem for a few years in my life. Don't buy beer out. Get beer from the grocery store. Cheap yet time-consuming hobbies. I did a lot of jigsaw puzzles, learned how to cross-stitch, and learned how to make chainmail. Running is free for the cost of a cheap pair of shoes and helped me fall asleep. I rode my bike like 300 to 400 miles is 480, 640 kilometers a month. Story 10. Perfect teeth. Screw tooth pain. Whenever I hear I've never had a cavity, I die a little inside, as a 34-year-old who's had 9 root canals and whose teeth are more filling than tooth at this point. And I've always taken care of them. I know someone who regularly goes days without brushing their teeth and never flosses. They went to the dentist for the first time in 2 decades, and the dentist scraped a thick layer of plaque off all their teeth. Underneath it, their teeth were perfect, except for one super tiny little cavity. Then there's us who take good care of our teeth and still somehow end up needing multiple fillings a year. Some people just win, lose the genetic lottery, and it's not fair. Story 11. A partner who loves them. And to add, a partner that will give what you put out. I am loved by my husband the same way I love him. We both work, we both share equal responsibilities with the house and the kids.
We both surprise each other with cute gifts on occasion. I'll pick up his favorite candy bar when I'm getting gas. He will bring home flowers. He lays his head on my chest at night and I scratch his head. We both help pack the kids' lunches. He does laundry while I cook dinner, or vice versa. If I have a headache, he's there with my migraine meds. If his back is hurting, I'm giving him a back rub. We never leave the house without a kiss and an I love you. He lost his job for 6 months. I shouldered the weight of the bills until he found a job that paid better than his last one. Never once did I make him feel inadequate. I just thanked him for being there for the kids so I could pick up extra hours and making the grocery runs. He told me he has a deeper appreciation for me as a mom for those years I was in school and was taking care of the kids.
We play video games together, we have date nights, we go to the kids' practices together, we share inside jokes. He is my best friend, and he will proudly say I am his. To love and be loved in return is the greatest gift a human can ever receive. Sorry, brag over. Just don't get many opportunities to express how lucky I truly am. Story 12. A functional, flexible back. A literal flex. I largely took mine for granted until a week after my 40th birthday when a semi ran me over on my motorcycle. 4 spinal fractures later, among other things, and I now have the back of a hard-living 65-year-old. I'm still walking and still alive, so I really can't complain. Didn't even need surgery on the back. But man, the back always hurts. Every second of every day. Some days are worse than others, but it's always there. Can't bend the way I want to. Everything makes me stiff and sore. It's just like a constant annoyance in every single thing you do. If your back is something you're just not even aware of most days, be thankful and appreciate it while it lasts. When you do some hard work and it hurts a bit the next day, appreciate that that's a different enough thing that you notice it, and that it'll fade in a few days. Story 13. Apparently buying a new car in cash. I was never big on cars, so had no clue all these BMWs, Audis, and Porsches everyone flexes with are not really theirs. They pay them off monthly, with like 6% interest. That was an important revelation I had 10 or 15 years ago. I would look around at everyone in my age group, and everyone's got all sorts of fun, expensive toys and shiny new cars, and are always taking vacations to exotic locations, etc. And I'm just sitting at home thinking, how can all these people from my generation afford all this stuff when I can't? What did they do differently to have so much money at the same age as my cheap ass? Then I realized, they don't actually have money. They can't actually afford all the stuff they have. They're just drowning in debt from predatory loans and a dozen maxed out high-interest credit cards. And when they don't have any more spending power, they just take out a new credit card and max that one out too. The only difference between me and most other folk in my generation is that I'm living within my means and they're not. Story 14. Being able to eat anything without having to scour the ingredients label. I developed an egg allergy last year and have to read labels on everything. I've even had major reactions from products that didn't contain eggs, but were processed in a factory that also processes eggs. It's to the point where the majority of my groceries are fresh meats and produce, and the occasional vegan certified baked good. While it's good to mostly eliminate cakes, cookies, brownies, cookie dough, many ice creams and all that sugary happiness, it really sucks not being able to buy anything from a bakery just because I want it. Grocery shopping is now an ordeal that I tend to pass on to my husband because it's pretty depressing and frustrating for me. I feel terrible for him because he loves to bake and cook, and he has to adjust most of his recipes for me, and, while it was his choice to give up fresh eggs, I know it's hard on him because eggs are his favorite food, and he knows so many different ways to make them. Story 15. A pension or retirement plan. There was a dude at my own job who refused to retire, and I don't think he meant to brag about it, but he had 2 pensions set up already. One from his military service, and one through his old job as a post office employee. He did not want to retire, he said, because he would get too bored at home. Keep in mind he was saying this to a bunch of people who were desperate for hours, who did not have a pension or retirement plan already set up, let alone 2, and again, I don't think he meant to brag. He just didn't seem to read the room that complaining to a bunch of 30 and 40-year-olds that you would get bored if you had nothing to do was probably a bad thing overall. Most of us were working 2 jobs already, and I think a lot of CO workers pulled back from him. The more he complained that our hours are being cut, but he just refused to retire because he was hoping for a severance package. Alright folks, that's a wrap. If you like this, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You can also share your those in the comment below.